Tonight on Corona Cops, shopping for murder and coughing up trouble. But first, Corona Cops are called to the scene of a Notting Hill neighbourhood, where reports have been received of an older woman greeting a visitor at a distance of less than 1 metre.
Obviously you don't expect to see crime in an area like that, but it just goes to show that no matter where you live, you can't choose your neighbours. Well, unless you're moving house, then you can choose a house with nicer neighbours, or nastier neighbours if you prefer. My neighbours are like rats, always less than 2 metres away, and you never know what they're riddled with. I needed eye protection to even look at them, never mind about coronavirus. But I'm not moving, because it's better to keep a careful watch on criminals, I find. Nothing to do with nicer areas being out of my pay packet at all. So my point remains, if you're not moving house, you can't choose your neighbours, so be careful.
First, Corona Cops pay a visit to the hero neighbour who observed and reported the crime.
I always knew there was something wrong about that old woman. Why she didn't have a Rolls Royce or at least a Mercedes, and didn't make any effort to wear Gucci or Saint Laurent. She was really bringing the air of the neighbourhood down. And some of us have house prices to worry about, you know. It was only my sense of duty that I had to report what I saw. I just couldn't sleep at night knowing I'd be complicit in something like this.
The neighbour tells PC's PPE and Bop that she saw the woman approach and greet another older lady at her gate about an hour previously, and crucially, that a hug might have been exchanged.
That shocked us. The crime was hideous enough when we thought it was just a meeting within 1 metre. But when we found out about the hug, actual physical contact between the two, we weren't just dealing with a common criminal. It took the severity to a whole new level. Okay, so we're about to knock on the door now. I'm gonna sanitise my hands straight after. Don't want to take no chances, you know.
The old woman answers and is visibly taken aback.
I remember my heart was beating fast at that point. Like this. Boom, 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 boom. If she was a serial hugger, that posed a serious threat to both myself and PC Bot. When I saw her, I just knew she was the type to try and come close. Stay back, please! Hands where I can see them! I've got Dettol spray!
The old woman chooses to agree for the time being, but PC's PPE and Bop keep on their toes.
In situations like that, you're taught to stay on your toes to keep vigilant. A hug, or even a pat on the back, can come out of nowhere if you're not prepared. We were literally on edge. This woman could turn at any moment.
I'm very sorry if the neighbours opposite thought I came a little bit close, but really, I don't think you can tell through the window, and I'm sure they should be minding their own business.
Crime is everyone's business, Mum.
Ma'am, we understand you got a little physical.
We were grasping for straws at that point. Only like when you're in a bar, and the straw to your Long Island iced tea is like multiplied into 4 or 5 phantom straws. You know, one eyewitness, no matter how posh, was just too hooky to bang the girl up. But we knew that woman was as guilty as sin. But then I heard it, and I was like, hallelujah, knew that we got her. Mum, who's that you've got behind the door?
Meanwhile, police arrive on the scene of a supermarket to respond to what they believe will be a common shoplifting incident.
Well, a man with a big coat just came into the store and started necking the bottles, before running off with 2 or 3 others stuffed in his coat.
But when police review the CCTV footage, they find something far more sinister.
At the front of the CCTV footage, plain as day, I'll kid you not, was a man not wearing a face mask. Now bear in mind, we thought we was just coming in to investigate a common shoplifting offence, but at least the shoplifter had the decency to wear a face mask. Now to me, that guy not wearing one is basically akin to attempted murder!
The Corona Cop team are called in and start planning their approach.
We only had the CCTV footage to go on, which showed no particularly distinctive features, except for a pointed goatee, a large black spot under his left eye, and a monstrously hairy monobrow over both eyebrows. So basically nothing at all. But for a crime such as this, we couldn't afford to give up.
While PC Plot gets to work reviewing the surrounding CCTV footage for any signs of where the man might have gone, fellow officer PC Druitt gets started on producing an identikit.
The thing with an identikit is you haven't got to get all the details right. So long as you get the main characteristics, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, sometimes you might draw an ear or two, people will be able to recognise it. I mean, it helps if you get them in the right order, but you don't have to get it 100% correct. It's not like you're training to become a plastic surgeon.
With footage from the CCTV proving inconclusive, the team rely on sending out the finished identikits through their networks in the hopes of a match. Back in Notting Hill, PC's PPE and Bob are closing in on their suspect. With her crimes rumbled, the old woman begins to make excuses.
It's just my sister in here. We formed a support bubble. We're just having a cup of tea. Is that okay?
I looked into the house at that point, and I could see the face looking out from what must have been the kitchen. I can tell you, that was not her sister. It's police instinct, and I know from experience that's more accurate than DNA.
Why was she meeting her sister at such close quarters anyway? If she was having a party, why wasn't I invited, you know? Then again, just as well, as my dance moves might have drawn a crowd, and that's against the rules.
Mum, can I ask you to come with us to the station, please? And keep your distance, but not too distant!
Just as PC's PPE and Bob take another criminal off the streets, things are hotting up on the supermarket mask case.
The good thing about not wearing a mask is it's possible to see a person's face, which A, means it's easier to see a person's face, and B, easier to see if that face is the same as what we're looking for.
PC Druitt's identikit has been matched by an officer during a routine patrol. Using a mask to conceal his identity, the officer secretly follows the suspect to a house on Church Street. With the suspect's home confirmed, the officer calls in Corona Cops. Corona Cops PC Plot and PC Druitt quickly respond, but soon find themselves up against a brick wall.
Oh, now what are we going to do?
Meanwhile, a man is coughing up a whole latte trouble outside a coffee shop near Paddington Station.
I just went in to try and get my morning coffee and there's a man outside just racking up his lungs. I was fearing for my life! I've got 2 small kids and he's just coughing like it's his God-given right!
With such a clear risk to public safety, Corona Cops PC Blob and PC Zapper are soon on the scene.
In cases like that, you've got to try talking first. If we go into such a volatile situation, all guns blazing, there's a risk we might panic him. And if he moves, even for a second or two, there's a risk he's going to cough on people nearby.
Sir, can you stop coughing? Sir, please can you stop coughing? I'm not coughing. I'm choking on my coffee.
With no sign of the man complying, PC Blob has no choice but to try and forcibly restrain the man. But the cough droplets prove too powerful, and PC Blob is knocked down.
I just remember being hit with that acid rain. It was just too much, and I felt my breath leaving me. I felt lying there that watching that man's phlegm shower out like that was going to be my last ever sight. But luckily, PC Zapper acted quickly.
It was just instinct kicking in. When I saw PC Blob going down like that and the suspect showing no sign of stopping, I just took out my taser and stopped him myself.
The man continues to cough, but PC Zappa has a secret weapon, a cough sweet. Back on Church Street, PC Plot and Druitt find the suspect's house, but there's a problem. The door is locked.
That was a tense situation for us. We knew the suspect was inside, but we couldn't gain access. I mean, we tried the obvious solutions. Squeezing through the letterbox. It was too small. Removing the hinges. That almost worked, but we didn't have a screwdriver. It was only when PC Druitt tried to scratch through the wood that the suspect actually opened the door of his own volition.
I'm PC Plot, this is PC Druitt, and you're under arrest for attempted murder.
The suspect becomes upset and defensive,
Attempted murder? Are you joking?
but the Corona cops have a trick up their sleeves.
Is this or is this not you in the photograph?
Oh yes, that's me.
You're not wearing a face mask, are you?
Oh, no, I wasn't.
The Corona cops have their confession, but the suspect makes a desperate attempt to wriggle out of it.
You see, I don't need to wear a face covering because I'm exempt. I have a fear of elastic.
The Corona cops consult the government guidance.
We knew the government guidance existed, we just never actually read it because it was too confusing and boring. But when I found the exception for people who would suffer panic attacks if forced to wear a mask, I just felt the case slipping away. Do you know what it feels like to be letting an attempted murderer just go like that? It's like you're just letting an attempted murderer just go out on the street.
PC Plot is about to call a halt to the case when PC Druitt makes a shocking discovery.
Elastic bands.
They're not mine, they're my mum's. She lives here too.
With the elastic bands found, the suspect's excuse quickly unravels, and the Corona cops' case finally snaps shut. Back at the Paddington coffee shop, the man caught coughing in the street has stopped breathing in a desperate attempt to avoid arrest, but PC Zappa and the recovered PC Blob are having none of it.
You don't know if it's a trap or not. If I go in and try and give him mouth to mouth and he coughs up virus into my lungs, that's not a risk I'm prepared to take.
Sometimes you get criminals that stop breathing just to escape this world and the justice it would serve. But after risking my life to apprehend this criminal, I was not going to let him get away so easily.
PC Blob decides to call an ambulance to prevent the man from slipping through the void into the afterlife.
The thing in these situations is, do you want this guy as a ghost coughing up all over you in such a public place? I know I wouldn't, and we don't have jurisdiction to police ghosts.
With CPR, the man recovers, but on waking he faces the friendly faces of PC's Blob and Zappa, who immediately arrest him for coughing in a public place.
Look, man, I'm sorry, but I choked on my coffee. I couldn't help it. I couldn't breathe.
We asked you to stop coughing politely, and you didn't.
Well, I'm sorry, I was dying.
But the man's excuses, unlike his coughed up phlegm, do not land well on the police officers, who book the man in for an extended stay in the Nick. In tonight's episode, the old woman arrested for meeting a visitor within 1 meter and inviting them inside the house was prosecuted for breaking social distancing rules, and despite pleas for a DNA test to prove the person she met was her sister, sentenced to 6 months community service. There was insufficient evidence to charge the man who failed to wear a mask in the supermarket with attempted murder, but he was charged and prosecuted for assault after the shoplifter became ill. And finally, the man who was coughing in the street was charged with conspiracy to commit grievous bodily harm, attempted murder of a police officer, and resisting arrest, and is likely to serve much of the next decade in prison. As the pandemic continues, the Corona cops are putting in all the stops to keep you safe from harm. Let's hope we don't see you next time on Corona Cops.